So now we're on to the Hearts for Russ Awards for 2021. While we've been in existence since 2014, and this is our 8th event, we are so pleased to announce our 5th annual Hearts for Russ Award winners. In these awards, we recognize individuals and physicians who have given back to the transplant community by providing, and we recognize a recipient award, a donor family award, and a physician award. The recipients this year are a truly extraordinary group of people, and we cannot be more proud of each and every one. So without further ado, I will present our recipient award for 2021. The team of Glenda Daggert and Ira Copperman have been part of the organ donation and transplantation world for more than 20 years, since Glenda received a simultaneous kidney pancreas transplant from an unknown deceased donor in June of 1999. Her transplant relieved her of 40 years of dealing with type 1 diabetes. Glenda and Ira have taken this gift of life and turned it into a passion and mission to help others. Brace yourself, because the list of causes that they support will just going to blow you away. They are founding members of Transplant Support Organization, TSO, a nonprofit organization that supports all areas of transplantation. Their service area is Greater Westchester County and includes the surrounding areas of Putnam, Dutchess, and the Bronx. Glenda and Ira volunteer at Live On New York, the organ procurement organization located in New York City, in the New York metro area. Ira serves on the Transplant Recipients International Organization, or TRIO, National Patient Group, where he's a member of the Political and Legislative Affairs Committee. Glenda and Ira are co-chairs for the Advisory Council of the Donate Life New York State Council, which I am pleased to serve on underneath them. They are hosts for the education series sessions for the New York Center for Kidney Transplantation. Active participants in legislative outreach for the partnership for Part D access, and mentors for Transplant Journey Incorporated, and National Patient Support and Mentoring. They are also regular attendees at the Region 9 meetings for UNOS and maintain an active schedule of speaking engagements at transplant centers and other community organizations. Ira also serves as a representative to the National Alliance founded to advance knowledge on liver disease, the patient representative on the Medical Advisory Board of Live On New York, a civilian member of the Department of Defense Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. The list goes on and on. And a patient member of the Mathematica Patient and Family Advisory Board. Glenda and Ira have been married 44 years, living in New York City, and they love visiting with their daughter and 2 grandchildren, and expect to keep on their volunteer transplant activities as long as they're standing, and there is a waiting list for transplant. Their commitment to helping others is simply too impressive to ignore. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to provide the 2021 Heart for Russ Recipients Award to Glenda Daggert and Ira Copperman.
Those of you who know Ira know why I'm speaking first. You heard all he does. He also talks that long. I just want to say thank you, a few thank yous, and start our thank yous. I know it's not the Academy Awards, so we won't go on for too long. First, I need to thank my donor, without whom I would be standing here. And I don't mean here, I mean here on earth. I would like to thank our daughter Amy, who has been a true treasure. I would like to thank Ira, of course, who has been such a wonderful partner through all of this. And I'll save the last big thank yous for him.
So I have just a couple of thank yous. One thank you is to someone you heard that we're very, very fortunate to be a part of, and that's our partner at Transplant Support Organization, Jen Benson, who is the chair of this organization, Transplant Journey, a national mentoring organization, with just a few short months, less than a year of existence, now is serving 30-some clients daily with the phone. So I'm very grateful to be able to work with Jen on a regular basis, TSO and Linda and I through Transplant Journey. And the last thing is, I was talking to Mr. Tisman earlier today, and I said, when you come into a meeting that we have with TSO, a doctor will come in and talk. You generally come into a meeting of very, very happy people. All of us who are here understand what a second chance is and what it means to be given a gift, a second chance in life. So, thank you to all of you is really the biggest thank you of all this evening for recognizing us and what we do regardless of that, because my thank you is every day I get to spend another day with London. So thank all of you very much.
That was wonderful. And he was brief today. Now I would like to bring up Jean Shields, who will present our Hearts for Russ positions award.
Dr. Linda Agnasio is the Director of Pediatric Cardiomyopathy, Heart Failure, and Transplantation at Columbia Presbyterian Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital in New York City. Her personal story to achieve success and renown in medicine began at an early age, as Linda knew she wanted to be a doctor since the age of 14, growing up in Southern California. In fact, she went to Stanford University to study medical microbiology because she had done research in infectious disease at the University of Iowa during summer fellowship program since she was 15 years old. She came to Columbia University for medical school in 1974, where she decided to specialize in pediatrics and stayed at the institution through fellowship in pediatric cardiology. This is when Linda's work made her a pioneer in the field. She will not tell you all of this. This was all news to me, by the way, but we believe Linda's incredible career requires attention this evening. After receiving the McIntosh Fellowship Award in 1983, she was hired to help create Columbia's pediatric heart transplant program in 1984, as they had just transplanted their first child. Since many in this crowd and following on Zoom understand and care about transplantation, we need to relay some of Linda's incredible medical innovations. She was the first to better define the importance of indexing the values of pulmonary vascular resistance in transplant. That was a mouthful to say. Not only in children, but in adults. With this method, more adults would qualify for transplant, and they could better manage the degree of risk at the time of transplant. She was the first to coin the abbreviation PVRI in 1986, which was presented at the American Heart Association. She developed methods to transplant children with high PVRI safely, such that the program became nationally and internationally for doing transplants on children that no one else would attempt. Patients were referred from all over the world to Columbia Presbyterian for this, and still are today. Another important contribution to transplant success was to insist that children be followed from the time of listing, not only from transplantation, which expanded knowledge of pre-transplant as well as post-transplant outcomes. Her list of awards, medical journal accomplishments, and fellowship successes are too many to recite here, but she has been particularly honored to be the first pediatric physician elected to the board of directors of the International Society of Heart and Lung Transplantation in 1998. She is also proud to have trained 13 advanced fellows at Columbia Presbyterian, all of whom have gone on to successful world-class careers in heart failure, transplantation, and research. 11 of them had internationally known programs in the field. Linda has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, as well as 3 grandchildren. And I just found out one is 6 weeks old. Her daughter entered the field of medicine. In terms of hobbies, Linda went into some interesting detail on how she likes to fix things. Well, we believe that this is very apt because Linda believes her most important accomplishments in medicine have been taking care of the people she calls her kids. A couple of them right in this room. Just think for a moment of how many kids she has fixed over her decades-long career and all of the families she has benefited through her intelligence, hard work, and glass-breaking accomplishments in medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, Hearts for Russ is so pleased to present our 2020 Physicians Award to Dr. Linda Adenizio.
Thanks so much. It's really quite an honor to be here. And thank you for that lovely introduction. Tell me. There we go. That's good. You tell me if you can't hear me. I know how to yell. I have been very privileged and fortunate to have been a partner in developing the field of pediatric heart transplantation, along with my patients who have been my faithful teachers and the real pioneers in transplantation over the past 37 years. And I know the learning will continue and the future will be even better. But for me, my passion resides in caring for each individual patient and their families, and in their courage and in their stories. And from my heart, I can attest that that I have never forgotten one of them. But I want to do a little bit of history. In the beginning, when I was growing up in California, it seemed like science fiction. And to many people, it still is. So my interest and journey in transplantation began when I went to college at Stanford. And the year was 1968. It's hard for me to believe that that's over 50 years ago, but ironically, that same year is when Dr. Norman Shumway performed the first human heart transplant in the US at Stanford. Captivated all of us and the world. So let's think about that experience for a minute. I know I did at the time. It was monumental. The patient was Mike Gaspari, a 54-year-old retired steelworker who had a massive heart attack. He and his wife Fern decided to go ahead with the transplant because both wanted to live, and it was clear to everyone that he would not live much longer. Just hours after Mike had his heart attack, tragedy struck another family just 7 miles away. Virginia Mae White, a 43-year-old housewife and mother of 2, suffered a brain hemorrhage that left her brain dead. Remember, there was no UNOS at the time, and Dr. Shumway was charged to talk to Virginia Mae's husband, Bill, about the possibility of donating his wife's heart. Dr. Shumway was surprised when Bill told him that his wife had been fascinated by the recent story of Louis Roshansky, the South African heart transplant a month before, and how marvelous she thought it was that Edward Darvell had allowed his daughter's heart to be used to give someone else a chance to live. This is my point. Mike, Fern, Virginia Mae, Bill, Edward, and Louis were all ordinary people, and they all became extraordinary pioneers in heart transplantation. And I named them not only because they were the first, but because they share a bond with all the unnamed recipients, donors, and donor families that have come since that time. They have a connection with all of you too. That bond is real. The desire to, above all, preserve life, celebrate life, and yes, to sacrifice when necessary, to show love for your fellow man. That is the miracle of transplantation. Hearts for Russ is such an important organization. Its mission and its message it conveys, and I hope that it's going to be around for a long time. I know the struggles transplant patients go through, and I'm in awe of all of you and your families every day. So let me close with an analogy I love from nature that I want to share with you. Now bear with me just a second. Everyone knows how sweet and nutritious blueberries are, don't you? Well, what you may not know is that the largest and sweetest blueberries are to be found on those blueberry bushes that grow back after a forest fire. You see, fire is a natural part of the forest regeneration system. Is there not a better analogy for the transplant process? Any family that has gone through the transplant fire knows what it is to rise from the ashes. But oh my, how sweet it's like after. On the recipient side, it is still hard, taking your meds on time, coming to visits, getting tests. But I have seen life take on a whole new meaning in my kids that I get taken care of. Playing sports they've never done, growing up, going to college, getting married, having families of their own, and yes, making a difference in the world. You, the transplant recipients, are the pioneers. But I will tell you, the real heroes are the living donors and families. Talk about heroes in the all the time, but there are those heroes among us, the everyday heroes that can outshine many on the battlefield. Our courageous living organ donors who selflessly give a part of their liver, a kidney, or a part of lung are unsung heroes. We thank you for your courage and your generosity. For our donor families who have lost a precious loved one, your own personal forest fire, the immensity of this loss cannot be underestimated. However, in the depths of that horrific loss, you chose to show love to another person and give life. And in that way, both you and your loved ones are not lost, but live on. We are so grateful for your humanity and altruism. I have seen numerous donor families, despite their sorrow, celebrate the sweetness and joy they feel at seeing the difference they've made in another family's life. We are all one people, and it is no more evident than if you look at the transplant community. Our goals are the same, to live, and as Winston Churchill says, never, never, never give up. So let us rejoice in our victories and remember with love those who we have lost and those who made the miracle of transplantation possible. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Lauren Shields to Dr. Edmonds' patients. Our transplant recipients. Amazing, wow. Thank you so much. Those words were inspiring. It's a thing, like we're doing the right thing here. Wow. Thank you. Now I would like to invite John Redican to introduce to you our donor family award recipients, Susan Angel Miller and her daughter Sarah.
Good evening, everybody. Susan Angel Miller is an organ donation advocate, grief facilitator, and keynote speaker. She's the author of Permission to Thrive. In her memoir, Susan shares her grief journey, which begins when her 14-year-old daughter, Laura, dies within days of being diagnosed with an aggressive cancerous brain tumor. Susan also explores her family's decision on the worst day of their lives to donate Laura's liver, which saved the life of a 40-year-old special education teacher in New York. Susan often speaks at community organizations, medical centers, donor family recognition ceremonies, where she conveys her gratitude for having had the opportunity to say yes and for being able to honor Laura's legacy in this life-giving way. For almost 3 decades, Susan has been a volunteer within the nonprofit community. In recent years, she's worked with Diversity, Organ, and Tissue to launch an employee resiliency project for organ procurement coordinators. She currently serves on the National Advisory Board of SOTA and raises money for organ donation and education and brain cancer research. She received her undergraduate degree in poli-sci from University of Michigan and her MBA from Loyola University in Chicago. She is married to her husband, Ron, and they are the proud parents of Sarah, Rachel, and the forever beloved Laura. Sarah Miller, student advocacy. For her, she believes that student advocacy is critical to reducing organ shortage. She founded Student Organ Donation Advocates, SODA for short, in 2014. SODA helps students who are passionate about organ donation and saving lives by either hosting an event or starting a chapter in their college. Sarah served as the volunteer executive director until April of this year, when SODA hired its first paid employee, quite a milestone. Today, Sarah serves as the board president for SODA. Sarah studied healthcare management and psychology at Washington University in St. Louis. In addition to her volunteer leadership at SODA, she works full-time as a senior operations analyst at Optimum in Denver, Colorado. She loves spending time hiking, camping, and playing with her one-year-old puppy, Crick.
Due to an important wedding that conflicted with Susan and Sarah's ability to travel here this weekend, we will not be able to see them in person. But they have generously recorded their award acceptances by video, which we're going to play for you right now.
Hi there. I'm so happy to be talking with you tonight, although I really wish I could be there in person. And I want to thank Hearts for Russ for this lovely honor to my daughter Sarah and I. I know what good work you guys do for the organ donation community, and it's such an important cause for our family as well. Because in 2009, February of 2009, my 14-year-old daughter, Laura, was having some very painful headaches. And one morning on February 18th, she woke up and threw up several times, asked me why I had 4 eyes, and had a seizure all within about an hour. We rushed her to the hospital, where the doctors told us that she had an aggressive brain tumor that could be removed in 2 days. But by the end of the evening, the headaches became too much for her. The tumor became too much. And my husband and I were in the room when she stopped breathing. 3 days later, we heard the doctors told us news that no parent wants to hear, that Laura, she had suffered something that was not survivable. We were in shock, as you can imagine, and just a couple hours later, an organ procurement coordinator came into our room and asked us if we would consider donating Laura's organs. We didn't know what to do, and our 12-year-old daughter, Sarah, I remember her asking us with a lot of passion, why, Mom and Dad, wouldn't you donate Laura's organs if it could possibly save someone else's life? And so that's what we did. We said yes, and we hoped it would provide a light in our dark tragedy, and it ended up being that and so much more. Laura's liver ended up matching a woman in New York who had gone up to number 1 on the liver transplant list in the United States. She was a 40-year-old special ed teacher at the time. Now she's 52 and living a very full life, and it's very powerful for our entire family that we saved a life through Laura's generosity and our decision on that horrible morning. And as a result, I've learned a lot about organ donation in the past 12 years and written a book about it. I've written a book called Permission to Thrive, which is really our donor family story. And I now know how important sharing these donor family stories are, because when I talk to medical professionals, I want to make sure that they all know that how important it is to give families the opportunity to donate their loved ones' organs, even though it's a very challenging situation in a very emotional time. I know the power of those conversations, and for families to share have those conversations even before someone dies, because as our story shows, you just never know what's going to happen. You don't think that the tragic situations are going to happen, but that is not how life works. So I think right now you're going to be hearing from Sarah, my daughter, who has really turned a very painful situation into her passion and her purpose. And I want to again thank you guys for listening, and I would love to hear from any of you to really further this cause. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you so much to Hearts for Russ and your incredible community for this award. It means so much to me. And thank you to my mom for telling our story. You always do it better than I could. As my mom suggested, I became passionate about organ donation during the hardest time of my life, when I lost my older sister. For me, talking about organ donation after Laura passed away was a really important part of my healing. I was able to share the impact that Laura made through the lens of organ donation and really reflect on the fact that my sister made such a difference beyond just the legacy that she had in our community. She actually saved a life. It was only natural that when I went to high school, I wanted to advocate for organ donation. So I spoke in driver's ed classes, at my local youth group, anywhere they would let me. And when I went to college, I wanted to continue my passion for organ donation. So I looked around and tried to figure out how I could advocate within the campus group structure. But unfortunately, I couldn't find a group that advocated for organ donation, which is what inspired me to create my own. During my first semester of freshman year, I found some other students who were also passionate about organ donation. We started the first ever chapter of SODA, Student Organ Donation Advocates. Our goal was twofold: to educate students about organ donation and to register them as organ donors. And it worked. For a few years, that's exactly what we did on that one campus. And then we started to hear from others at other schools that they wanted to make a difference too, just like we were doing. And so that's when we began to expand. It started with just a few students that were interested, but quickly we formed a more robust strategy to reach students across the country, specifically by partnering with organ procurement organizations. We were excited to get a lot of interest coming through our doors through this outreach that we did. And today I'm excited to share that we have nearly 40 campus chapters, both on high schools and college campuses nationwide. For us, our passion is reducing the barriers for students who want to make a difference. So we're always asking ourselves, how can we make it easier for students who are ready to make change in this organ donation advocacy space? We're so grateful for Hearts for Russ and your support of our recent initiative to reach students and to support students at historically Black colleges and universities. As many of you know, there's a disparity in the African American community between the number of folks on the organ donation waiting list and those who receive transplants. And so we identified a need to do outreach to the historically Black colleges and universities, and really to leverage the platforms that we've built over the past several years to reach new communities that we weren't previously reaching. We're so lucky to have Hearts for Russ's support, both financially, but also in terms of the expertise you bring to outreach in the community. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for all you do and for this really special award.
So now I'd like to call up the board of Hearts for Russ, as well as Karen. Okay. So we've been at this for 8 years, and we're really excited that this year it's going to put us over $200,000 raised. And this year is our biggest year ever. Yeah, we raised over $42,000.